The smell of mesquite smoke drifted across Rebecca's perfectly manicured lawn as I pulled my Honda Accord into the circular driveway. The car's engine rattled slightly, a familiar sound I'd grown to love over the years, though I knew what was coming. Through the windshield, I could already see my sister's expression, that particular curl of her lip she reserved for moments when she felt superior. The Martinez family reunion was in full swing, and I was about to become the afternoon's entertainment. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. I stepped out of the car, smoothing down my simple cotton dress, nothing fancy, just comfortable. The Texas heat hit me immediately, that oppressive Austin summer warmth that made everything shimmer. Rebecca stood on her stone patio, one hand on her hip, the other holding a glass of what I knew was expensive wine, the kind she always made a point of mentioning the price of. Her Range Rover gleamed in the driveway, pristine white with chrome accents that caught the sunlight like a beacon of wealth. "Oh my God, Jess," Rebecca's voice carried across the lawn, loud enough that conversation stopped. "You're still driving that thing? I thought maybe you'd finally upgrade, but I guess some things never change." Brandon, her husband, looked up from the grill where he was playing pitmaster, a role he took very seriously despite burning everything he touched. "That car's got to be what, 10 years old? 15? Jesus, Jess, we were talking about maybe pooling together for a Christmas gift, get you into something from this decade." Heat flooded my cheeks, but not from the temperature. 20 or so family members and friends had turned to look, assessing my car, assessing me, finding me wanting. My mother emerged from the house carrying a platter of her famous potato salad, her eyes flicking between me and Rebecca with that look I knew too well, the one that said, "Please don't make a scene." "The car runs fine," I said quietly, grabbing the store-bought cookies from my passenger seat. I hadn't had time to bake, not with the week I'd had closing the Georgetown location's biggest sale of the quarter. "Runs fine," Rebecca repeated, laughing that tinkling laugh she'd perfected somewhere between her junior league meetings and her country club tennis lessons. "Mom, didn't you offer to co-sign for her? I mean, working at that little shop, I know money's tight, but there are options. Even something used would be better than that embarrassment." Uncle Miguel stood near the drinks cooler, and our eyes met briefly. Something passed between us, a moment of understanding, but he said nothing. He never did, content to watch and wait, knowing what I knew, carrying the secret we'd shared for 8 years. "I like my car," I said, moving past Rebecca toward the food tables. "It was Dad's." "Which is sweet, really," Rebecca continued, following me like she always did when she sensed weakness. "But Jess, honey, Dad would want you to move on. To move up. I mean, look at this beautiful home Brandon's provided. Look at what success actually looks like." The house was beautiful, I'd give her that. A sprawling Mediterranean-style McMansion in Tarrytown, all arched windows and terracotta tiles, the kind of place that screamed money at everyone who drove past. What Rebecca didn't know, what nobody knew except Uncle Miguel and my business partner Diana, was that I'd looked at this same house when it was on the market. Had seriously considered buying it. Had ultimately decided it was too ostentatious, too much of what I'd spent years avoiding. "Aunt Jess." My niece Lily came running across the lawn, 7 years old with grass-stained knees and a gap-toothed smile. "You came. Did you bring the cookies? The good ones from the store?" I scooped her up, grateful for the interruption. "I did, sweetheart. Chocolate chip, your favorite." "Mom says store-bought cookies are tacky," Lily announced with the brutal honesty of childhood. "But I like them better than the ones she makes anyway." Rebecca's face tightened. "Lily, go play with your cousins." The afternoon crawled forward with the slow agony of a sunburn developing. I stationed myself near Uncle Miguel's cooler, helping him distribute beers and sodas, staying out of Rebecca's orbit as much as possible. But my sister had a gift for finding me, for making sure every guest knew about my inadequacies. "That's my baby sister," she'd say to Brandon's colleague from the investment firm. "Still figuring things out, you know how it is. Not everyone can be ambitious." Or to her book club friend admiring the pool, "Jess works at an auto shop. Can you imagine? I mean, I guess someone has to do those jobs. My mother did her part too, though her jabs were subtler, wrapped in concern. Jessica, honey, there's a management position opening at my dentist's office. I could put in a word. Better hours, better pay, more appropriate for a woman your age. What nobody asked, what nobody had ever bothered to ask in the 8 years since Dad died, was how I was actually doing. They'd made their assumptions the day I'd taken over his small repair shop in East Austin, decided my trajectory, written my story. The scholarship girl who'd gone to UT Austin for business. The tomboy who preferred engines to makeup. The daughter who'd disappointed everyone by choosing grease over glamour. I watched them all, these people I'd grown up with, celebrating Rebecca's life, Rebecca's success, Rebecca's choices. Cousins I used to play with who now looked at me with pity. Aunts who used to braid my hair who now offered advice on settling down and finding a good man to take care of you. Brandon's parents, the Caldwells, holding court near the infinity pool, embodiments of old Austin money, ranching fortune turned real estate empire. And there, near the dessert table, was someone I recognized but hadn't expected. David Thornton, wearing an expensive polo and designer sunglasses, chatting with Brandon about golf handicaps. I'd sold him an Audi S6 3 months ago, spent 2 hours going over every feature, helped him negotiate the perfect deal. He'd shaken my hand in my showroom, called me a miracle worker for getting him the exact color combination he wanted. Now he stood 15 feet away, and we might as well have been strangers. Rebecca's really done well for herself, I heard David say to Brandon. This house, your lifestyle. Very impressive. We work hard, Brandon replied, puffing up slightly. Family money helps, sure, but I've made my own mark. Unlike some people who are content with mediocrity. His eyes cut to me as he said it, making sure I caught the implication. Uncle Miguel appeared at my elbow, pressing a cold beer into my hand. You doing okay, Mija? Just another family gathering, I said, taking a long drink. Your father would be proud of you, he said quietly. What you've built. What you've become. Dad's not here. No, but I am. And I remember everything. He glanced around the party, at Rebecca holding court, at my mother fussing over Brandon's parents, at the casual cruelty disguised as concern. The question is, how much longer are you going to let them think you're small? Before I could answer, Rebecca's voice rang out again. Everyone, gather around. I want to make a toast. The guests assembled on the patio, drinks in hand, faces turned toward my sister like flowers following the sun. She stood on the raised deck, Brandon beside her, the perfect picture of success and happiness. I just want to say how grateful I am to have family here today, Rebecca began, her voice warm with wine and self-satisfaction. We don't get together enough, and it's so important to remember where we came from, to help those who haven't been as fortunate as we have. My fingers tightened on the beer bottle. I look at my little sister Jess, still struggling with that old car, still working at that tiny garage Dad left her, and I think about how blessed Brandon and I have been. So I've decided, we're going to help. Consider it an early Christmas present, Jess. We're going to buy you a decent car. Nothing fancy, just something reliable. Something you won't be embarrassed to drive. Applause rippled through the crowd. My mother actually had tears in her eyes. Even David Thornton was clapping, probably thinking what a generous sister I had, what a sad case I must be. Uncle Miguel's hand found my shoulder, squeezed gently. Now? He asked, so quietly only I could hear. I looked at Rebecca, radiant in her moment of charitable generosity. At Brandon, smug in his role as provider. At my mother, relieved that someone was finally taking care of her disappointing daughter. At all these people who'd made assumptions, drawn conclusions, never bothered to ask. Not yet, I whispered back. Let her enjoy it. Because the thing about building an empire quietly is that nobody sees it coming. And the fall, when it finally happens, is so much more satisfying when they've climbed as high as they can first. I drove home that evening with Rebecca's words echoing in my head, the patronizing applause still ringing in my ears. The Honda's engine hummed its familiar tune as I navigated through Austin traffic, past the gleaming downtown skyline where my headquarters occupied 3 floors of prime real estate. Nobody at that barbecue knew that building existed, let alone that my name was on the deed. The loft in East Austin had been my sanctuary for 5 years now. Exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the city that never failed to calm me. I'd bought it cash, renovated it myself with Uncle Miguel's help on weekends. The parking garage housed my daily driver, the tired Honda, but in the climate-controlled storage unit 2 floors down sat my actual collection. A 1967 Mustang Fastback in Highland Green. A Tesla Model S Plaid. A restored Porsche 911 from my birth year. Cars I drove for pleasure, for joy, for the pure love of machines that had been bred into me by a father who'd taught me to see beauty in combustion engines and precision engineering. My phone buzzed as I unlocked the door. Diana Chen, my CFO, and the woman who'd helped me transform Dad's struggling repair shop into a dealership empire that cleared $50 million annually. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Saw your sister's Facebook post, Diana's text read. She's really doubling down on the charity angle. Posted a whole thread about helping family members in need. I tossed my keys into the bowl by the door, the expensive Italian marble bowl I'd bought in a moment of indulgence, hidden here where no one from my family would ever see it. Opening my laptop, I navigated to Rebecca's social media. Sure enough, there it was. A multi-part post about the importance of helping struggling siblings, complete with a photo of her Range Rover and a caption about being blessed to be a blessing. The comments were a Greek chorus of enablement. Friends praising her generosity. Distant relatives chiming in about how sweet she was. Even Mom had commented with 3 heart emojis and, so proud of my girl. My phone rang. Uncle Miguel. You made it home, he said. Not a question, just confirmation that I'd survived another round with my sister. Barely. I poured myself a whiskey, the good stuff from the locked cabinet. She posted about it on Facebook. Made herself look like a saint. Your dad used to say Rebecca could find a camera crew in an empty room. His voice carried the weight of too many family gatherings, too many years of watching his brother's daughters grow apart. When are you going to tell them, Mija? Tell them what? That while Rebecca was spending Brandon's family money on pool renovations, I was closing deals on my 5th location. That her car is leased and mine are owned? That the little garage they think I'm barely scraping by at is actually the flagship of a chain that employs 200 people? Yes, Uncle Miguel said simply. All of that. I swirled the whiskey, watching the amber liquid catch the light. It's not the right time. It's never going to be the right time. You've been waiting for 8 years for the perfect moment to show them who you really are. Meanwhile, Rebecca gets to play Lady Bountiful and your mother gets to pity you. He wasn't wrong. After Dad died, I'd inherited the shop along with a mountain of debt he'd hidden from everyone. The cancer treatments had wiped out his savings. The business had been hemorrhaging money for years. Mom had wanted to sell it immediately, cut our losses, move on. Rebecca had agreed, suggesting I use whatever proceeds there were to go to grad school, get a real career. But I'd seen something they hadn't. Dad's customer base was loyal, devoted. They came back not because his prices were low but because Carlos Martinez treated every car like it belonged to his own daughter. He'd built relationships, earned trust. I could work with that. The first year had been brutal. 18-hour days, learning to manage employees, dealing with suppliers, keeping the lights on. I'd lived in a studio apartment that smelled like mildew and eaten ramen more nights than not. Uncle Miguel had helped when he could, lending me tools, covering shifts, never asking for anything in return. Year 2, I'd gotten smarter. Started specializing in European imports, carving out a niche. The wealthy west side of Austin needed someone who could work on their BMWs and Mercedes without the dealership markup. I became that someone. Year 3, I'd met Diana at a small business association meeting. She'd taken one look at my books and said, you're sitting on a gold mine and treating it like a lemonade stand. Within 6 months, she'd restructured my entire operation. Within a year, we'd secured financing to expand. The first dealership franchise had been a gamble. Every penny I had, every line of credit I could secure, leveraged against the belief that Austin's booming economy would support a luxury car market. Diana had believed too, putting her own money in, becoming a full partner. We'd chosen Audi first. Not the flashiest brand, but solid, reliable, appealing to the tech money flooding into Austin. The location in North Austin had been strategic, positioned between the Domain shopping center and the emerging tech corridor. Young engineers with signing bonuses. Startup founders with exit money. They all needed cars that said success without screaming it. Within 2 years, we'd added BMW. Then Mercedes. Then a pre-owned luxury lot that moved high-end vehicles to customers who wanted the prestige without the new car payment. Each expansion had been calculated, researched, executed with precision that would have made my business professors proud. My family had noticed none of it. To them, I still worked at Dad's old garage, still struggled, still needed their pity and advice. "You should come by the flagship tomorrow," Diana's text interrupted my thoughts. "Marcus wants to go over the Georgetown numbers. Also, we got the approval for the San Antonio expansion." San Antonio. Market number 6. Another city, another opportunity, another piece of an empire I'd built from nothing while my sister posted about her charitable nature on social media. I responded with a thumbs up and opened my laptop properly, pulling up the real work. Quarterly reports showing profit margins that would make Rebecca's investment banker husband weep with envy. Employee satisfaction surveys from our 200 staff members. Customer testimonials praising our service. Awards from manufacturer partnerships recognizing our sales volume. Martinez Auto Group wasn't just successful. It was thriving, growing, becoming the kind of legacy Dad had always dreamed of but never lived to see. My phone buzzed again. This time, my mother. "Sweetie, I was thinking about what Rebecca said. Maybe it would be good for you to accept their help. Pride is one thing, but practical transportation is important. That Honda can't last forever." I stared at the message, wondering what she'd say if she knew the Honda was kept running as a choice, not necessity. That I had it serviced at my own shop, by technicians I employed, using parts one purchased at cost. That the scratches and faded paint were intentional, camouflage in a game they didn't even know they were playing. "Thanks, Mom," I typed back. "I'll think about it." The lie came easily now, after years of practice. Let them think what they wanted. Let Rebecca have her moment of superiority. Let Brandon smirk about mediocrity. Let the aunts and uncles whisper about potential wasted and dreams unfulfilled. Because I'd learned something in 8 years of building a business they couldn't see. The best revenge wasn't flashy. It wasn't immediate. It was patient, calculated, devastating in its completeness. I pulled up Rebecca's Facebook again, studying the comments. So many people praising her kindness, her generosity, her big heart. I wondered how many of them had bought cars from me, sat in my office, signed contracts with my company's name at the top. Austin wasn't that big. The luxury car market was surprisingly small, interconnected. David Thornton had been at that barbecue, drinking Brandon's beer, eating Rebecca's catered food, and he'd bought an Audi from me 3 months ago. Had sat across from my desk calling me ma'am, thanking me for the excellent service, promising to recommend friends. But put me in a sundress at a family party, and I became invisible. My email pinged. Marcus Thompson, my flagship manager, sending the week's numbers. Strong sales in the luxury sedan category. The new showroom design was driving foot traffic. Customer satisfaction scores remained above 90%. Everything was working exactly as planned. Ready for the reveal yet? Uncle Miguel's follow-up text asked. I looked around my loft, at the life I'd built in secret, at the success I'd hidden like a shameful thing instead of the achievement it was. Looked at my laptop screen full of proof that I'd exceeded every expectation except the ones my family had never bothered to set for me. Soon, I typed back. Very soon. Because Rebecca had made a mistake today. She'd gone public with her charity, created a narrative, painted herself as the savior and me as the project. She'd done it in front of witnesses, documented it on social media, made sure everyone knew their roles in her story. What she didn't understand, what none of them understood, was that I'd spent 8 years learning to be patient. Learning to wait. Learning that the sweetest victories came not from fighting back immediately, but from letting your opponents commit fully to their position before revealing that the ground they stood on was never solid to begin with. My father used to say that engines were like people. You had to understand what was happening beneath the surface, had to listen to the sounds nobody else heard, had to know when something was about to break before it actually did. Rebecca's engine was making sounds. Overconfident, revving too high, pushing too hard. And I'd been listening for years, waiting for exactly this moment. The moment when her charity would become my catalyst. The call came Tuesday morning while I was reviewing contracts in my office on the 19th floor. My assistant knocked softly before entering, her expression apologetic. "Your sister is online too," Jennifer said. "She's called 3 times. Says it's urgent." I glanced at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Austin, the city sprawling beneath me in the morning light. Through the glass, I could see the Martinez Auto Group logo on the building across the street, our headquarters visible from here. Rebecca had driven past this building 100 times, never once wondering who owned it. "Put her through." Rebecca's voice came across bright and energetic, the tone she used when she wanted something. "Jess. Finally. I've been trying to reach you all morning. Were you at the garage?" "Working," I said simply, watching a delivery truck pull up to our parts department below. "Right, well, I have amazing news. Brandon and I talked it over, and we've decided on the perfect car for you. There's a Honda dealership in Round Rock. They have a certified pre-owned Civic, only 3 years old, and it's perfect for your budget." "Well, our budget, since we're buying it." "Isn't that exciting?" I picked up my pen, clicking it slowly. "That's very generous." "I know. So we're thinking this Saturday, we can all go together, make a day of it. Mom wants to come too, she's so excited. We can have lunch after, celebrate your new car." Brandon's already talked to the sales manager, explained the situation. "They're being very understanding about your credit situation." "My credit situation." The words hung in the air. My credit score was 815. I owned property, had business lines of credit in the millions, could walk into any bank in Texas and walk out with whatever I needed. What did Brandon tell them about my credit? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Oh, just that you've been struggling, that family is helping out. They deal with situations like yours all the time, apparently. People who need a helping hand. The manager said they have special financing for people with challenges." Through my office window, I watched Marcus pull up in one of our demo vehicles, a sleek black BMW 7 Series that cost more than Rebecca's Range Rover. He'd be bringing the quarterly reports, the ones showing our growth trajectory, our market expansion, our domination of the luxury vehicle sector in Central Texas. "Saturday might not work for me," I said. "Jess, come on. Don't be stubborn about this. I know accepting help is hard for you, but sometimes we have to swallow our pride. It's just a car. You need one, we can provide one. Don't make this difficult. I'll check my schedule and get back to you." "Your schedule at the garage?" "Jess, seriously. This is your family trying to help you. The least you could do is show some gratitude." After she hung up, I sat for a moment in silence. Jennifer appeared in the doorway again, reading my expression with the intuition of someone who'd worked with me for 4 years. "That bad?" she asked. "She wants to buy me a used Civic. This Saturday. Make a family event out of it." Jennifer's eyes widened. She knew exactly what I drove when I wasn't playing the part of struggling mechanic. She'd arranged insurance on the Porsche, processed the registration on the Tesla, coordinated delivery of the Mustang from the restoration shop. "What are you going to do?" Let her plan it, I said, opening my laptop. Let her set it all up, invite everyone, make a big production. Meanwhile, I have actual work to do. Marcus arrived 20 minutes later with Diana, both of them carrying tablets loaded with data that made my sister's charity project seem even more absurd. Georgetown location cleared $2 million in profit last quarter, Marcus announced, spreading reports across my desk. The service department alone is outperforming projections by 30%. We're getting customers from as far as Waco now. Diana pulled up a presentation on my monitor. San Antonio numbers look strong. The market analysis shows we can support 2 locations there within 5 years. Maybe 3 if the tech corridor expands like projections suggest. We spent 2 hours going over expansion plans, staffing needs, inventory projections. At one point, Diana paused, studying me over her reading glasses. You're distracted, she said. What happened? I told them about Rebecca's call, about the planned car buying expedition, about my sister's determination to rescue me from my struggling existence. Marcus laughed outright. She wants to buy you a used Civic? You? Let me understand this correctly, Diana said slowly. Your sister, who drives a leased Range Rover, wants to buy you a certified pre-owned economy car as charity, while you own the dealership group that generates enough monthly revenue to buy that entire Honda lot outright. That about sums it up. And you're going to let her do this? I leaned back in my chair, considering. I'm going to let her try. Understanding dawned on Diana's face. She'd been in business long enough to recognize strategy when she saw it. You're setting something up. Rebecca made this public. She posted about it on social media, told the whole family, probably told her book club and her country club friends. She's committed now. Can't back down without looking bad. So you're going to let her commit further, Marcus said, catching on. Let her dig deeper into this narrative she's created. Exactly. This Saturday, she wants to parade me to a Honda dealership in Round Rock. Wants the whole family there to witness her generosity. So I'll go. I'll let her have her moment. And then? Diana asked. And then we see what happens. Because here's the thing they don't know. That Honda dealership? They're not part of our group, but the owner is Tom Chen. Your cousin. Diana's eyes lit up. Who you helped secure financing for when he was expanding 3 years ago. Who owes us a favor, I confirmed. Several favors, actually. And who would be very interested to know that the struggling mechanic his staff is being told to treat with kid gloves is actually Jessica Martinez of Martinez Auto Group. Marcus grinned. This is going to be beautiful. It's going to be educational, I corrected. There's a difference between revenge and teaching someone a lesson they desperately need to learn. After they left, I made a call to Tom Chen. We'd met at an industry conference 5 years ago. Bonded over shared experiences of building businesses from nothing, of being underestimated, of proving doubters wrong. When he'd needed capital to expand his Honda franchise, I'd connected him with lenders, vouched for his character, helped structure a deal that worked. Jessica Martinez, Tom's warm voice came through the phone. To what do I owe the pleasure? I need a favor, Tom. A strange one, but I think you'll appreciate the irony once I explain it. I laid out the situation, Rebecca's plan, the family dynamics, the years of being treated as the disappointing sister. Tom listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Let me make sure I understand. Your sister is bringing you to my dealership to buy you a charity car, and she has no idea you're the Jessica Martinez who owns half the luxury car market in Austin? That's correct. And you want me to play along? Let her think she's doing you this enormous favor? For a little while. Just long enough. Tom laughed, a deep sound full of genuine amusement. Jessica, after what you did for me, I'd do this favor for free. But honestly, I'd pay money to see this play out. Your sister sounds like she needs a wake-up call. She needs to understand that assumptions are dangerous. That looking down on people has consequences. Consider it done. Saturday, you said? I'll brief my staff personally, They'll treat your sister like the queen she thinks she is, right up until the moment you decide otherwise. Friday evening, Rebecca called again, confirming details. She'd invited Mom, Uncle Miguel, her daughter Lily, and Brandon's parents, the Caldwells. A full audience for her generosity. "I'm so excited for you," Rebecca gushed. "Your first new car in what, 15 years? This is going to change your life, Jess. You'll finally be able to hold your head up, drive something you're not ashamed of." I responded noncommittally. "Oh, and I posted about it again. So many people have reached out saying how inspiring it is, how families should take care of each other. Mrs. Caldwell said it really shows our values, helping those less fortunate. She's even talking about making it a thing at their country club, members helping their struggling relatives. You're basically starting a movement." After hanging up, I texted Uncle Miguel. "You ready for tomorrow?" His response came immediately. "Been ready for 8 years, Mija. About time you stopped hiding." That night, I stood in my storage unit looking at the cars Rebecca didn't know existed. The Mustang gleamed under the LED lights, its paint job perfect, its engine a work of art. Dad would have loved this car. Would have spent hours talking about the restoration, the attention to detail, the respect for craftsmanship. He'd also have been furious about Rebecca's behavior. Dad had believed in humility, in hard work, in letting your actions speak louder than your words. He'd taught me to build things that lasted, to treat people with dignity, to never assume you knew someone's whole story. Rebecca had learned none of those lessons. She'd learned to perform success, to broadcast generosity, to mistake volume for substance. Tomorrow would be interesting. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "Tom Chin just called me. Said he's never been more excited for a Saturday shift in his life. Also said whatever you're planning, he wants video." I smiled, typing back. "No video. Some lessons need to be experienced, not recorded." Though I suspected Rebecca would document every moment on social media anyway. She'd probably go live on Facebook, capture the whole thing for her followers, cement her role as the benevolent sister. The irony was almost too perfect. Saturday morning arrived with typical Texas heat, the sun already fierce at 9. I dressed carefully, choosing clothes that matched the role I'd been playing, jeans and a simple blouse, nothing that would suggest the life I actually lived. The Honda started with its familiar rattle, and I drove toward Round Rock, toward the performance Rebecca had orchestrated, toward the moment when everything would change. Uncle Miguel's truck was already in the Honda dealership parking lot when I arrived. Through the showroom windows, I could see Rebecca holding court, Brandon beside her, Mom fussing with her purse, the Caldwells looking vaguely uncomfortable but supportive. Lily pressed her face against the glass of a red Accord, leaving smudge marks. Tom Chin stood near the entrance, catching my eye as I approached. His slight nod was the only acknowledgement we'd ever met before. "Show time." Rebecca spotted me the moment I walked through the automatic doors, her face lighting up with that expression of benevolent superiority I'd come to know so well. She rushed forward, arms outstretched, pulling me into a hug that felt more performative than genuine. "There she is. Our guest of honor." Rebecca's voice carried across the showroom, ensuring every sales associate and customer turned to look. "Everyone, this is my little sister Jessica. Today we're getting her into a reliable vehicle, finally giving her something she can be proud of." Tom Chin approached with professional warmth, extending his hand. "Ms. Martinez, welcome to our dealership. Your sister has told us so much about your situation. We're here to help however we can." I shook his hand, catching the microscopic twitch at the corner of his mouth. He was enjoying this already. "Thank you," I said quietly, playing the part. "I appreciate your time." Brandon clapped a heavy hand on my shoulder. "No need to be nervous, Jess. We've got this all handled. Tom here is going to set you up with something sensible. Nothing fancy, but functional. That's what matters when you're on a budget." Mom appeared with Lily in tow, her eyes slightly damp. "I'm just so proud of Rebecca for doing this. Family taking care of family, that's what your father would have wanted. Uncle Miguel hung back near a display of brake pads, his expression carefully neutral. But I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw worked as he watched Rebecca orchestrate her performance. So, Tom said, gesturing toward the rows of vehicles visible through the showroom windows. Your sister mentioned you'd be interested in our certified pre-owned inventory. Very smart choice for someone in your position. These vehicles have been thoroughly inspected, come with warranties, and the financing options are quite accessible for various credit situations. We've already picked one out, Rebecca interjected, pulling out her phone to show photos. The blue Civic, 2021, only 30,000 miles. It's absolutely perfect. Much better than that ancient Honda she's been limping around in. Mrs. Caldwell, Brandon's mother, adjusted her pearl necklace and smiled with practiced sympathy. It's so wonderful that Rebecca has the means to do this. Not everyone is blessed with good fortune, but those of us who have a responsibility to lift others up. A sales associate named Kevin appeared with a clipboard, clearly briefed on the situation. I have the paperwork ready for the Civic. If you'd like to take a test drive first, Ms. Martinez, we can certainly arrange that. Though I understand your sister and brother-in-law have already inspected it thoroughly on your behalf. Of course she needs to test drive it, Uncle Miguel spoke up from his position near the parts display. It's going to be her car. She should see how it feels. Rebecca waved this off. Uncle Miguel, that's sweet, but we don't want to waste everyone's time. The car is fine, we've checked it completely. Jess just needs to sign the papers and we can all go to lunch. I made reservations at that new place on Main Street. I'd like to drive it, I said, my voice steady. If that's all right. Tom nodded immediately. Of course. Kevin, get the keys. And perhaps Ms. Martinez would like to see some of our other inventory as well? We have several options that might interest her. The Civic is what we're buying, Brandon said firmly. Let's not complicate things. Jess needs reliable transportation, not choices that'll confuse her. Kevin disappeared to get the keys while Rebecca positioned Mom and the Caldwells near the Civic for photos. She was already composing the Facebook post in her head, I could tell. The narrative was written, the roles assigned, the lesson about family and charity ready to be broadcast. Before the test drive, Tom said, would anyone like coffee? We have a lounge area with refreshments. That would be lovely, Mrs. Caldwell said. Brandon, dear, why don't you come with me? Let the girls handle the car business. As the group fragmented, Uncle Miguel drifted closer to me. You sure about this? He murmured. Not too late to just tell them. Where's the lesson in that? I replied quietly. Let it play out. Kevin returned with keys and a folder of information about the Civic. Rebecca immediately took charge, ushering me toward the car, her hand on my elbow like I might flee if not properly supervised. Now, it's not new, she explained as we walked across the lot. But it's much better than what you've been driving. The payments will be very reasonable, and Brandon and I are covering the down payment completely. All you'll need to handle is the monthly amount, which should be manageable even on your salary. The Civic was nice enough. Clean, well-maintained, exactly what someone would expect for a basic, practical vehicle. I sat in the driver's seat, adjusted the mirrors, felt the unfamiliar contours of a car I had no intention of owning. See? Isn't this better? Rebecca leaned through the passenger window. Power windows, backup camera, Bluetooth. It's like entering the modern age, right? I turned the key, felt the engine respond. It was fine. Perfectly adequate. The kind of car I sold dozens of every week through Tom's dealership and others like it. Good vehicles for good people who needed reliable transportation. Take it around the block, Kevin suggested. Get a feel for it. Rebecca climbed into the passenger seat uninvited, her phone already out to document the moment. This is so exciting. Your first time driving something from this decade. Oh, I should go live on Facebook. Please don't, I said, pulling out of the parking space. Why not? Everyone's been following the story. They'll want to see this moment. It's inspiring, Jess. You're inspiring people who are struggling, showing them that with family support, things can get better. I drove in silence, navigating the streets around the dealership while Rebecca narrated into her phone, creating a story about sisterly love and charitable giving, about the importance of helping those who couldn't help themselves. When we returned to the lot, the rest of the family was assembled in the showroom, refreshments in hand, ready for the grand finale. Tom stood behind the sales counter, paperwork spread before him, playing his role perfectly. So? Mom asked eagerly. Do you love it? It's a nice car, I said honestly. Nice? It's perfect for you. Rebecca beamed. Now let's get the paperwork signed so we can celebrate properly. I told everyone at lunch about this, they're all so excited to meet you. Tom gestured to the chairs across from his desk. If you'll all have a seat, we can go over the details. Ms. Martinez, I'll need to see your driver's license and proof of insurance. I handed over my license, the one with my current address in East Austin, the loft Rebecca had never been invited to visit. Tom examined it with professional attention, then began typing into his computer. Now, the purchase price we discussed is $18,500, Tom said. Your sister has agreed to provide $5,000 as a down payment, which leaves $13,500 to finance. Let me just pull up your credit report and we can see what rates you qualify for. Rebecca leaned forward. We already explained about her situation. She's going to need special consideration. Of course, Tom said smoothly. Every application is unique. Let me just. He paused, staring at his screen. His eyebrows rose slightly. What is it? Brandon asked. Problem with her credit? We figured it might be rough. Tom looked at me, a question in his eyes. This was it. The moment. I could let it continue, let them sign papers and write checks and cement themselves further into their narrative of charity. Or I could end it now. Uncle Miguel caught my eye across the room. He gave the smallest nod. Actually, Tom said slowly, I'm seeing something unusual here. Ms. Martinez, according to this report, your credit score is 815. Silence fell across the showroom. That can't be right, Rebecca said. Let me see. I'm also seeing multiple business accounts, several properties, significant assets. Ms. Martinez, I need to verify something. Are you the Jessica Martinez associated with Martinez Auto Group? The words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. What's Martinez Auto Group? Mom asked, confused. Tom swiveled his monitor so they could see the screen. It's a luxury car dealership chain. 5 locations across Central Texas. BMW, Mercedes, Audi. Very successful operation. Annual revenue in the tens of millions. Rebecca laughed, but it sounded forced. That's ridiculous. Jess works at our dad's old garage. She barely makes ends meet. I do work at Dad's garage, I said quietly. The original location in East Austin. We kept it running as a full-service shop. But I also own 4 luxury dealerships, a pre-owned lot, and we're expanding to San Antonio next quarter. Brandon's face had gone pale. You own dealerships? For 8 years now. Started small, built it up. My business partner Diana Chen and I, we've done pretty well. Mrs. Caldwell set down her coffee cup with a sharp click. I don't understand. You let us think you were struggling. You assumed I was struggling, I corrected. Nobody ever asked how I was actually doing. You saw the old car, made your judgments, and decided you knew my whole story. Rebecca's phone was still in her hand, her Facebook Live still recording. Her face had gone from smug satisfaction to confused anger to something approaching horror as she realized what was happening. But the car, she stammered. You drive that terrible Honda. I drive Dad's Honda because I want to. Because it reminds me of him, and because I can afford to keep it running perfectly. I have other cars. Several other cars. Nice ones. How is this possible? Mom's voice was small. Why didn't you tell us? When would I have told you? Between the comments about my clothes not being nice enough? Or maybe during the lectures about getting a real job? Or perhaps at the barbecue last week when Brandon called me mediocre in front of 20 people? Uncle Miguel stepped forward. I've been watching this family treat my niece like a charity case for 8 years. Watching her build an empire while you all patted yourselves on the back for being successful. Carlos would be ashamed of how you've acted. You knew? Rebecca turned on him. You knew and you didn't tell us? It wasn't my secret to tell. And frankly, watching you all make fools of yourselves has been educational. Tom Chin cleared his throat. So, Ms. Martinez, I take it you won't be purchasing the Civic today? No, I said. But I appreciate you playing along. Rebecca's face went through several shades of red. Playing along? You two know each other? Tom and I have been colleagues for years. I helped him secure financing when he was expanding his operation. We've worked together on several industry initiatives. The Facebook Live was still running, capturing every moment. Rebecca finally noticed, fumbling to end the stream, but not before several hundred people had watched her charitable gesture implode spectacularly. This is insane, Brandon said. If you're so successful, why do you live like you do? Why the secrecy? I live exactly how I want to live. In a loft I bought with cash, driving cars I love, running a business I built from nothing. The real question is why you all assumed that quiet meant struggling, and why you never bothered to ask before deciding you knew everything about my life. Mom sank into one of the waiting chairs, her face ashen. 8 years. You've been successful for 8 years and never said anything. Would you have believed me? I asked. Or would you have found some way to diminish it, make it smaller, explain why it didn't count? Rebecca's always been the successful one in your eyes. The one who married well, lived in the right neighborhood, had the right friends. I was just the daughter who disappointed you by choosing cars over convention. Mrs. Caldwell stood abruptly, gathering her purse. Brandon, I think we should leave. This is clearly a family matter. No, please stay, I said. You were here to witness the charity. You should see how the story actually ends. Rebecca finally found her voice, and it came out sharp with defensive anger. This is cruel, Jess. You let us plan this whole thing, let us look like fools, just to humiliate us? I let you reveal who you actually are, I corrected. For 8 years, you've talked about my life like it was something pitiable. Made assumptions about my finances, my choices, my worth. You posted on social media about helping your struggling sister. You told your friends I needed saving. You never once asked if any of it was true. You could have corrected us. Why? So you could take credit for my success. Tell everyone how you always knew I had potential. Rebecca, you've spent nearly a decade treating me like a project, and the moment you couldn't anymore, you'd find some other way to feel superior. Tom Chin quietly excused himself, giving the family privacy, though I caught his approving nod as he left. Kevin had already disappeared, probably to share this story with every sales associate in the building. Uncle Miguel moved to stand beside me, his presence solid and supportive. Your father built that garage with his own hands. Taught you everything he knew about engines, about business, about treating people with respect. You took what he gave you and made it into something he'd be proud of. That's the real story. Not the one Rebecca wanted to tell on Facebook. I just don't understand why, Mom said again, and she looked genuinely lost. Why hide it? Why let us think you were barely surviving? Because I wanted to build something that was mine, I said, softer now. Something I earned without anyone's expectations or judgments attached to it. Dad left me a struggling shop and mountains of debt. Everyone told me to sell, to quit, to give up and do something sensible. But I saw what he'd built, the relationships, the trust, the foundation. I knew I could make it work. And you did, Uncle Miguel said quietly. Better than anyone imagined. Brandon had been silent, but now he spoke, his voice tight. So what, you're rich and we're supposed to feel bad for not knowing? You played us, Jess. Set us up to look like idiots. You did that yourselves, I replied. Every comment about my clothes, my car, my life. Every assumption that because I didn't broadcast my success, it didn't exist. I just stopped correcting you. Lily, who'd been watching everything with wide eyes, tugged on Rebecca's sleeve. Mommy, does this mean Aunt Jess doesn't need a new car? No, sweetie, Rebecca said, her voice hollow. Aunt Jess doesn't need anything from us. The words hung there, bitter and true. I thought about relenting, about softening the blow, but Rebecca had made this bed with her Facebook posts and her public charity and her years of casual cruelty disguised as concern. I should go, I said. I have a meeting with my business partner this afternoon about the San Antonio expansion. Of course you do, Rebecca muttered. Go run your empire. Leave us here to deal with the fallout of your little lesson. The fallout is yours, Rebecca. You created this situation. I just stopped pretending to be what you needed me to be. Mom stood, reaching for my hand. Jessica, please. We can talk about this. Work through it as a family. We haven't been a family for a long time, Mom. Not really. We've been people playing roles you assigned us. Rebecca the successful one, me the struggling one, you the mother trying to keep peace. Maybe now we can figure out who we actually are. I walked toward the door, Uncle Miguel falling into step beside me. Rebecca called after me, her voice cracking. Everyone saw that live stream, Jess. Everyone knows now. How am I supposed to face them? I turned back one last time. The same way I faced 8 years of your pity parties and condescending charity. You figure it out. Outside, the Texas sun blazed overhead, and the parking lot shimmered with heat. My Honda sat where I'd left it, faithful and familiar, while Tom's inventory of shiny new vehicles surrounded it like accusations of inadequacy. Uncle Miguel pulled out his keys. You want to grab lunch? Celebrate your coming out party? Actually, I need to make a stop first. We drove in convoy, his truck following my Honda through Austin traffic, until we reached the Martinez Auto Group flagship. Marcus was in the showroom when I arrived, greeting a couple interested in a Mercedes sedan. Boss, he said, surprise evident. Wasn't expecting you today. Change of plans. Show me that BMW M8 in the back lot. The car was magnificent, alpine white with cognac leather interior, engine that purred like a promise of speed and power. I'd been saving it for a customer who appreciated fine machinery, but sometimes you had to practice what you preached about living the life you'd earned. I'll take it, I said. Personal use. Marcus grinned. About damn time. That evening, I parked the BMW in my building's garage next to the Mustang and the Porsche, the Tesla and the collection I'd built in secret. My phone had been buzzing for hours with messages, calls, Facebook notifications that I ignored. Only one text mattered, from Diana. Tom Chin called. Said today was the most entertaining thing he's witnessed in 20 years of car sales. Also said you're a legend. His words. I poured wine, the expensive bottle I'd been saving, and stood at my windows watching Austin's lights spread below me. Somewhere out there, Rebecca was probably deleting Facebook posts and fielding questions from friends who'd watched her charity gesture dissolve in real time. Mom was likely crying into her tea, Uncle Miguel was probably chuckling to himself, and Brandon was recalculating everything he thought he knew about his wife's family. But none of that was my burden anymore. I'd spent 8 years carrying the weight of their assumptions, their judgments, their need to see me as less so they could feel like more. Today I'd set that weight down, and the lightness was intoxicating. My father's voice echoed in memory, words he'd said when I was young and uncertain. Mija, let your work speak for itself. Build something that lasts. The people who matter will see what you've done. The ones who don't aren't worth your worry. He'd been right. I'd built something that lasted, something that mattered, something that was entirely mine. And if my family couldn't celebrate that without first making it about themselves, then perhaps they weren't the audience I needed. Tomorrow I'd meet with Diana about San Antonio. Next week, Marcus wanted to discuss adding Porsche to our brand portfolio. The business kept growing, kept evolving, kept proving that the quiet girl in the old Honda had seen something everyone else missed. For now, though, I simply stood in my beautiful loft with my expensive wine, looking out at my city, finally free from the story others had written for me. The only way forward was through. Dad had taught me that. But he'd also taught me that sometimes the best revenge was simply living well, building something meaningful, and refusing to apologize for being more than anyone expected. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.